Member for Castries East. Member for Castries East and Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when I heard the Prime Minister begin his presentation, I thought I was in a different place. I could not believe that the Prime Minister was saying what he said about the performance of the economy under the management of the St. Lucia Labour Party. But I've made the point several times before that reality comes to bear, and economics is about figures and not about speculation or good speeches or even vindictiveness or victimization. Economics is about figures. It's a quantitative science, and the truth always comes to the forefront when you're dealing with the subject. The Prime Minister and his government had said that the economy was so bad. This government had mismanaged the economy so much. Things were in a mess. The country was overtaxed. The country was overburdened. They even had to look for experts to deal with the budget process. So they imported Ernst & Young to deal with the budget process. So I look back and I said to myself, why did the Prime Minister have to do that? Why was the budget so bad? Why was the past Minister of Finance such a disaster? Why the government could not do anything because of the budget? Government was in problems. The budget, we tied it for budget. A budget, not our budget. We have to present our own budget. So I looked at the estimates for 2016-2017, and I looked at the estimates for 2017-2018. And I began with the forward. And I want to quote, Madam Speaker, and I don't think it's necessary to make a document of the House because that's a public document. I want to read the forward of that document. And it says, this year, 2016-2017, marks the third year of continuous strides in our quest towards strengthening fiscal discipline through strategic budget reform process. The ultimate aim of these persistent efforts is to ensure that the government finances are sustainable in the long term and the budget spending decisions are more consistent with national policies and priorities. Expenditure priorities for 2016-27 fiscal year are focused primarily within the following key areas: infrastructural development, value-added agriculture and fisheries, improving security, enhancing the quality of and access to basic education and essential healthcare services, enhancing public sector efficiency, eliminating gender bias, and promoting children's rights. That was the 2016-2017 forward of the St. Lucia Labour Party. And I looked at the forward of this government for 2017-2018, and I don't need to make it a document of the House because you have it. And I read, and I quote, the budget reform exercise introduced 4 years ago. The budget reform exercise introduced 4 years ago. That was the mess they inherited. That's why they had to import Ernst & Young. That was a mess. But here's what they say in their own documents. The budget reform exercise introduced 4 years ago focused on strengthening the link between resource allocation, agency spending, and government strategic priorities. The 2017-18 estimate of expenditure seeks to ensure that agencies' budgets reflect government priorities and support the improvement of service delivery. Now, in its 4th year, and I quote, now in its 4th year, so it's not the mess. The mess has now become good in the 4th year. Now in its 4th year, the estimates of expenditure provides information on the objectives and strategies of departments and outlines targets for service delivery in key output areas. In this way, it allows accounting officers to track performance, promote transparency, and allows for more informed debate in Parliament and within civil society. The objectives in the 2016-2017 estimates and the objectives in the 2017 estimates identical. But they told the people of St. Lucia that we made such a mess. Things were so bad. The Minister of Finance didn't know what he was doing. So they had no budget. And wait till the budget comes. We can't do anything. The budget, we inherited a budget. We can't spend any money. That's what they told the people of St. Lucia. That's what they told the people of St. Lucia. But the truth, Madam Speaker, and they will spin it. They will spin the truth. They will say they will continue their vindictiveness. They will continue the targeting of people. They will continue. But the truth of the economic reality that they inherited from this government will come to light. I want to quote, Madam Speaker, from the fiscal and structural reforms of St. Lucia towards a comprehensive agenda. I don't need to make it a document house because this has been a document of the House, Madam Speaker. And it reads, in the executive summary, notwithstanding the improvement in fiscal performance in the past 4 years, notwithstanding the improvement in fiscal performance in the past 4 years. That is the mess they inherited. That is what they told the people of St. Lucia. That's the mess. This government has done a complete mess with the economy. The economy is in chaos. They have to save it. They have to survive to stay alive. But, Madam Speaker, the reality is, and I turn to the summary, because, Madam Speaker, every word I say today, I will back it with facts, and I will back it with using sometimes their own documents. I turn to the summary of estimates for 2017-2018, and the Minister of Finance, he very skillfully gave the ratios for 2016-2017, but he refused to tell the country what will happen with the budget of dreams, to the estimates of dreams that he has put forward to his Honourable House. But I will tell you, the estimates, these figures that are included in these estimates of revenue expenditure will lead this country into economic chaos, and most likely, the country will have to get a structural adjustment program very soon, sooner than later. And the facts are here, and I will prove to you why what I'm saying is true. So, Madam Speaker, I've established that there is nothing new in that budget. There's nothing new in the estimates. The estimates are basically the same heads, basically the same, Madam Speaker. I want you to take some time and look at it. This basically the same thing. What was Ernst & Young paid for? This exactly, if you look at it, the same headings, no difference. Absolutely no difference. Even some of the heads are the same. I mean, you go through it, page, summaries. Exactly the same. So what that meant is that they took the people of St. Lucia for a ride, flashing mirrors. Because there's no difference. So they spent millions of dollars. Some say 7 million, some say 300,000, some to pay Ernst & Young, and they've come out with the same document that the same civil servants prepared, the same civil servants that they didn't trust. A minister said he doesn't trust civil servants. A minister said they've done all kinds of this, said civil servants leaked documents. The same civil servants prepared the same document, and that is the same document that they are bringing in this Honourable House today. Let us get to the figures, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this budget is risky, it's dangerous, and it is an irresponsible deficit budget. It's risky, it's dangerous, and it's irresponsible. Because it fails to deal with fiscal consolidation, it fails to deal with the realities of the economic situation, it fails to follow on the path that this government inherited when they came into power in June. I'll tell you why, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let us look at some of the ratios that are important to the economists, important to the country, and important to the world. Madam Speaker, government is not a gamble. It's not a business. It's not dealing shares. It's not speculation. When you have a business dealing shares, there's a silly notion that government is business. Government can't be business. Some aspects of government can be run as a business, but government is not a business. Government has to deal with several things, including livelihoods, the needs of people. So government can't be a business. How can your health sector be a business? How can your social services be a business? So the notion that businessmen can run government is not, it's never shown to be correct. It has never been correct, because government is not a business. Government is not speculation. Government cannot be speculation, Madam Speaker. And when government becomes business, you deal with the victimization that they are accustomed with. You deal with the fact that you bring the police to go out people's homes and people's businesses because you want to victimize them. When the government becomes a business, you deal with audits, not forgetting that the audits that you're trying to do, your government spent more than 50% of the expenditure in the audit that you want to do. But you forget because you're so vindictive. Your focus on making people cry. That's the focus, Madam Speaker. Government is not like that. Madam Speaker, tax revenue. This government said to the people of St. Lucia that the country is overburdened with tax. Too much tax, we are overburdened. Why are we paying so much tax? Taxes. Madam Speaker, in the estimates, the revenue for tax has not changed. Same thing. If the country is overburdened with tax, you should reduce it? No, same thing. But the country is overburdened, too much tax. And Madam Speaker, I will challenge the Prime Minister again to tell the public what he is going to do with VAT. Because I'm going to prove to you, Madam Speaker, by simple arithmetic, not mathematics, that the yield, simple arithmetic, that the yield that the government has proposed on VAT cannot be correct if they maintain the same level of goods as exempt goods and at 12.5%. It's impossible. I'm going to put that to you later on, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, the government has foregone substantial VAT revenue, but they've kept the level of taxation the same. What they did, they taxed tourism. This is what they did, they taxed tourism, Madam Speaker. And regardless of how they were told that taxing tourism will have an impact on visitor arrival, all the studies show that. I've had discussions with very important hoteliers that are alarmed at government taxing of tourism. A CDB study showed that the elasticity of travel, Madam Speaker, is such that when you tax tourism, it has an effect on visitor arrivals. This government refuses to understand. This government refuses to understand that, Madam Speaker. So, as they say, they're taking risk. So they are risking, they are taxing tourism, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the government says that non-tax revenue will increase. Line item 42, it increased by $39 million, 114%. And they base that on the Citizens for Investment program, Madam Speaker. But, Madam Speaker, you know, this government has said so many things about the Citizens for Investment program. In this honorable House, when they were in opposition, they are the ones who caused the Citizens for Investment program to have a slow start. In fact, it got to such a position where a minister said that the only reason why we are having issues with impacts because the government is involved with Venezuela and Cuba. But understand that this government has returned to Venezuela. They are going to deal with ALBA funds. They are going to receive ALBA funds. But you understand? But we are castigated. That impact is because of Venezuela. That we are dealing with communists. But they have returned and understand part of the housing situation. They are going to Venezuela. The Venezuela that they've condemned so much. And we stand in solidarity with the democratic processes in Venezuela. The Venezuela they have condemned so much, they are going back to Venezuela for ALBA funds. They are going back to Venezuela for housing, Madam Speaker. What a difference. What a difference a day makes. Transfers, Madam Speaker. The government have increased transfers by $18 million, Madam Speaker. But, Madam Speaker, they've increased transfers. Part of these transfers are to go to Alpha Lewis Community College. They say that they're going to make a university, so Alpha Lewis Community College, but the amount budgeted for is the same. And today, the teachers at Alpha Lewis can't get paid. But they are going to have a university with Alpha Lewis College. You budget the same amount of money, $15 million of transfers to Sir Alpha Lewis, and today you can't pay them. But, Madam Speaker, you are transferring $4 million to the Castries City Council. You maintain the level of $4 million of transfers to the Castries City Council. You have absolutely no plan for what you're doing there. You have no plan. You remove $700,000 from National Trust, but you spend money on a Castries City Council building. No one knows what you're doing. I want to know if they're applying approval for that. I haven't seen the reason for it, Madam Speaker. No one is looking at that. But you don't have money to put in the National Trust. You have money for that. But you have money to spend on a Castries City Council building that was a traditional building. A building that you could use not, you know, I can't blame the government, because if you remove money from the National Trust, you don't believe in nature heritage. You don't believe in the heritage of the country. So very soon you will see that we can forget our status in Soufrière. We can forget this heritage status in Soufrière, because this year, Madam Speaker, when governments behave vindictively, when governments aim at making people cry, that's what happens, you know. You take actions and you do not understand the repercussions of the action. St. Lucia, Soufrière is a nature heritage site. That's a world-renowned site. But the people who are in charge of dealing with that site, you withdraw funding from them because they tell you that let us discuss a dolphin park and let us discuss taking 900 acres of land and Maria Islet from the people of St. Lucia. And I want to make a statement today, Madam Speaker. This Labour Party never approved any dolphin park for Pigeon Point. Never. This Labour Party never approved any dolphin park to be built at Pigeon Point. Never. We never. I will not be disturbed by it. This government never approved any dolphin park for Pigeon Point. Never. This government never approved any dolphin park for Pigeon Point. So, Madam Speaker, we're talking about transfers. This government never approved any dolphin park for Pigeon Point. We never approved any dolphin park for any national landmark. We never approved any dolphin park for any national landmark. We never approved any dolphin park for any national landmark. Can we use a national landmark? So, Madam Speaker, we get back, Madam Speaker, to the mess, the dream that they have created here and they call estimates. That's what you're dealing with, the dream, the dreams, the dangerous and irresponsible budget statements that they've dealt with, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, the debt burden of this government, Madam Speaker, will increase in this fiscal year. It's going to increase, and that's the same government that said we were overburdened with debt, Madam Speaker. And when we were in government, we always made a point that the debt is not good. Nobody likes debt. But because of the prevailing circumstances, we had to borrow. And I'm going to show to you, Madam Speaker, that this government has consistently and persistently misled the people of St. Lucia when it comes to debt. But again, the figures will show. I'm going to quote their own figures, Madam Speaker, to show how they consistently and persistently have misled the people of St. Lucia when it comes to debt in St. Lucia, and their own social and economic review. Their own social and economic review, Madam Speaker. And I quote from page, and I don't even make a document in the House because you have it already. Page 51 of their own social economic review. You see, Madam Speaker, it says, public debt. At the end of 2016, the official stock of public debt, which includes central government liabilities, government guaranteed and public non-guaranteed debt, grew by 2.6% to $2.988 billion. This represents a slowdown of the rate of debt accumulation. This represents a slowdown of the rate of debt accumulation, which in the decade, and they're so smart, they say decade. You understand? Use and abuse of statistics. They say decade. Has grown at an average of 6.8%. But, Madam Speaker, I'm going to tell you that look at the debt. I have done, Madam Speaker, an official public debt analysis using page 101 of the Social and Economic Review. Madam Speaker, in the year 2009 to 2010, public debt increased by $207 million. 2010 to 2011, $236 million. 2012 to 2013, $124 million began to decrease. 2014 and 2013, $130 million. 2014 and 2015, $125 million. And 2015 2016, $75 million. That is the debt profile. You agree that it may be difficult to raise money on the bond market, but when you go and tell people in St. Lucia that this government has overtaxed debt, you understand? When you tell people that, Madam Speaker, that is what the truth, Madam Speaker. So right now, because the truth, Madam Speaker, the truth, so that has become the reality, Madam Speaker, that all the time you are fooling the people of St. Lucia. All the time you are misleading the people of St. Lucia, Madam Speaker. But right now, the facts, the figures, and in their rebuttal, Madam Speaker, I want them not to deal with flashing mirrors, deal with facts, figures. Not what you think, what is the reality, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, the government will increase this fiscal year. External borrowings will increase by $56 million. Borrowing by the way of treasury bills will increase by $111 million. And, Madam Speaker, they are increasing that debt while the main indicators of the economy, the primary surplus, the primary deficit, the overall deficit is increasing, Madam Speaker. The last set of people who did that was Greece. The last time that was Greece, Madam Speaker, and you know where Greece arrived, Madam Speaker. But the figures for 2017, 2000 show a difference, Madam Speaker. But, Madam Speaker, let's go further. Madam Speaker. The recurrent deficit, which is government's recurrent regular revenue, such as tax revenue, is not sufficient to cover recurrent or unaffordable expenses such as wages and salaries, Madam Speaker. in its first budget since assuming office, the government is increasing the recurrent deficit by 109%. This government, is increasing the recurrent deficit by 109% in its first year. And if you say, Madam Speaker, look at it as a summary, the figures, summary, the budget, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the primary deficits, and these are the indicators that the IMF uses, the CDB uses, the World Bank uses, and serious investors use. Not the word serious investors, not investors that take everything and give nothing. Serious investors. These are the indicators that they use, Madam Speaker. Primary deficits. The primary deficit is the difference between current government spending on goods and services and total current revenue from all types of taxes, net transfers. That's the primary deficit. This year, it's expected that the primary deficit, Madam Speaker, will be $50.7 million, which will be a reversal from a primary surplus this government inherited in 2017, a primary surplus of $102 million, a surplus. They've reversed it in 1 year to a deficit of $50 million. That is the management of the economy. These are the estimates that this government are presenting to the Bureau of Expenditure. They inherited a surplus of $102 million, and they are getting us to a minor situation of $50 million, Madam Speaker. This amounts to a negative shift of $152.8 million. That is what this government, Madam Speaker, these economic geniuses, that is where they are put in this country. That is what this government is doing in this country, and these are figures. And I want you to tell me these figures are incorrect. These are figures, Madam Speaker. And if Ernst & Young prepare a budget, these are Ernst & Young figures. The overall deficit, Madam Speaker. The overall deficit is expected, Madam Speaker, to increase by $158 million, moving from 1.4% of GDP to 4.7% of GDP. That's the overall deficit, Madam Speaker. That is the state of the economy that this government is giving the train of St. Lucia. And compared to what they inherited in 2016, 2017. It's there for you to see, Madam Speaker. Compared, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, this government has plunged the country into serious deficit financing. And that's not new, but they've plunged it, they've plunged it in such a way that they have changed surpluses into deficits. They've changed primary surpluses into primary deficits, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is economic. It's more than madness. This is irresponsible, Madam Speaker. It's irresponsible. But you know why? They don't care. They don't care. They don't care. You think they care about the people the children who have to pay that? They don't care. They can afford it. They can afford it. They don't care. That's not a business. So it's a joke. You turn a primary surplus into a deficit. You in of $152 million, but that's a joke. So, Madam Speaker, most economists will tell you that when the overall deficit approaches 5%, these are alarm bells. Any student of economics will tell you that is dangerous, Madam Speaker. But this government goes into it willingly, even if they found themselves inheriting a platform where these things had started to be reversed, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this government, Madam Speaker, I said before, is leading this country down a dangerous path of spending, tax and spend. It's old-fashioned Keynesian economics. Old-fashioned. Old-fashioned Keynesian economics, where they believe that they can stimulate economic development only by growth in consumption. Economic development is not spurred only by growth in consumption because of the fiscal multipliers. So even though you have an increase in consumption, that doesn't mean that you have growth. That doesn't mean that the government's books will look better. And they learned that with the reduction in VAT. Because they reduced VAT, they made a big hue and cry, they'll put more money in the economy. $52 million in the economy. Go and ask the lady in Masha, when she went to the supermarket, how much money did she save because you reduced VAT? And you made a big fuss with me. That was the whole story. When you said, I said $5 can block a hole. But it will be left to haunt you. Haunt you. What will haunt you is you'll just start to cry. You will hear that from now till the cocks crow. Because this, by this single sentence was, and what hurt me, Madam Speaker, is the Prime Minister, instead of Prime Minister pulling up his minister and say, Minister, you shouldn't say that, the Prime Minister endorsed it. So the Prime Minister endorsed it, that Labour Party supporters must cry. He further endorsed 90% of the people are Labour, so there is no political fallout. And he further endorsed it. That is why they have endorsed him taking off $700,000 from the National Trust. Victimization. Madam Speaker, we're going to deal with some items of revenue. You will not see the relationship between two of them. You can't. Page 8, Madam Speaker, the airport tax. This government will collect $18 million more from airport tax, 173%. And this government, they heard the cries of the SHTA. I said in this honorable house that the airport tax will have a negative effect on travel. As usual, they laughed at me. They laugh at me, I'm a papi show. The SHTA put it in writing to them. The St. Lucia Hotel and Tourism Association put it in writing. If they give them money, they surely withdraw it too. Because the SHTA is not Labour. The SHTA told them that if you put that tax, it's going to have a negative effect on travel. Major hoteliers told them so, Madam Speaker. So what they did? They said they defer it. They said they defer it. But initially, that was a bad decision. And history proved it's a bad decision, Madam Speaker. But once it comes from the Labour Party, they discard it, they laugh at it, and they look to injure and to hurt the messenger and not the message. That's what they do. That is the crux of this government. Injure the messenger, make them cry. That's the crux. That's what it's all about. Make them cry. They sit in cabinet for 8 hours, have political sessions to make people cry, and bring the civil servants in the last 2 hours. Because the first 8 hours is to make people cry. Madam Speaker, excise tax, line 102 of line 012, Madam Speaker, on this estimate, excise tax, Madam Speaker. The excise tax have increased by $17 million, Madam Speaker. 20% increase. I want to ask for the Prime Minister, what's in there? What's in there? What's in that? I'd like to know. You can't tell me it's increasing investment, because the investors, you give them duty-free concessions. I'm nothing against that. So all the increased investment will not give you more money in the Treasury, because they have duty-free concessions. So the question is, why would excise tax increase by such amount, Madam Speaker? On page 9, Madam Speaker, there's an increase in terminal dues and user fees. I don't know why. I hope the Minister of Finance will tell me. But, Madam Speaker, page 14, the minibus drivers, there is an increase in route permit fees. Last year, we collected $40,000 in route permit fees. This year, they are projecting $490,000, Madam Speaker. Minibus drivers, watch it. Madam Speaker, now we will come to VAT. VAT, Madam Speaker. We will come to VAT. Madam Speaker, last year, the government collected, let's really take your time, check for me. How much time do you have left? Please, sorry.
You were due, Honourable Leader of the Opposition, to end at 4:25 by this law.
Okay. All right. Madam Speaker, VAT, Madam Speaker. In 2017, Madam Speaker, this government collected $336,518,855 from VAT. In 2018, out of that, Madam Speaker, they collected from the customs 159 million and from inner revenue 176 million. In 2018, they are forecasting that they will collect 139 million from the customs and 163 from the inner revenue, a total of $302 million from VAT, a decrease of $43 million from VAT this year. But, Madam Speaker, that's the devil is in the details. The devil is in the details. Madam Speaker, VAT revenue estimates for financial year 2017-2018, as I said before, is $302 million. Let us analyze the VAT yield, Madam Speaker, for 2016-17 as compared to 2017-18. It's on page 7, page 8. That's what you're looking for. The analysis of VAT, Madam Speaker. $346 million at 15%. That is the previous year. That means, Madam Speaker, that for every 1% of VAT, the government collects $22,444,000. Let's say $22 million. For every 1% of VAT. That's for last year. Now for this year, they are proposing, based on their figures, that they will collect $202,863,201 of VAT at 12.5%. That means, Madam Speaker, for every 1% of VAT, they're going to collect $24 million. At 15%, you collected 22, but now you're going to collect 24, Madam Speaker. The question is why? The question is why, Madam Speaker? So, I want the Prime Minister, in his rebuttal, to tell the people of St. Lucia that they will not put VAT, put more items on the exempt list, or not change the zero-rated item list. Finally, Mr. Speaker, on VAT, this government promised in the fight to stay alive, they would reduce VAT and possibly eliminate VAT. Thank you, comrade. They would eliminate VAT. But you know what? You know what? You know what? You know, when you know, Madam Speaker, look at page 8. Look at page 8. Look at page 8. That's the government that said they will remove VAT. Look at page 8 and page 7. And I speak to item 353014, value tax. They are projecting VAT to 2018, 2019, and 2020. That's the government that will remove VAT. We remove VAT. VAT is bothersome, but we remove it. 5 to stay alive. 5 to stay alive. But you have VAT in 2018, you have VAT in 2019, you have VAT in 2020. Flashing mirrors. Take it out. Keep your promise to people, St. Lucia. Remove it or eliminate it. That's what you promise the people. But you have it budgeted and major amounts to you. Major amounts, Madam Speaker. Major amounts for VAT. 163 million 2017-18, 166 million in 2018, and 170 million in 2020. But you know what? If they last, 2020 is near 2021. So when 2021 hit, they say, we reduce VAT. That's what they'll do. Near 2020, we reduce VAT. Near 20, that's what they'll do. Near 2020, we reduce VAT. You know, that's going to reduce VAT. The same bluff. You can fool the people Never all the time. Madam Speaker, interest payments, Madam Speaker, interest payments. This government have made the point about debt. About debt. Their own economic social review showed our trajectory as far as debt is concerned, Madam Speaker. Their own figures show the point, Madam Speaker. But, Madam Speaker, just for the record, 2018, interest payments, 170 million, 14.77%. Line 128, 2018, loan repayments, 112%. You see, Madam Speaker, and they're back in their sinking fund. You run a deficit by our sinking fund? Who is advising the government? You run a primary deficit. You run an overall deficit, but you're having a sinking fund. If I answer you, you sign something. Sign it. I wouldn't fall in that trap. I'll rise above that. Madam Speaker, Prime Minister, Expenditure, page 57, code 247. There was a distress fund of $417,000 when poor people's house got burned. They would apply from all constituencies. When poor people's houses got burned, they would apply to the parliamentary rep, and members of the other side have benefited from that facility. They would apply to the parliamentary rep, and the parliamentary rep would write to the Prime Minister, and he would give them some support after fire and that kind of thing. They've removed it. Distress fund. Distress fund. They've eliminated that. Nice, Madam Speaker. Under the Prime Minister. $19 million. They've eliminated. But, Madam Speaker, the cruel thing about nice, Madam Speaker, and you know, all of us are politicians. All of us like our supporters. All of us are pleased our supporters. But this government has brought it to a degree never before. Never before. Madam Speaker, do you know in Castries East, there were 26 home care providers. And I have the names. Madam Speaker, they send all of them home, except 2. And you know why they send the 2? I wouldn't say why. I will not say why. You understand? They make them cry. Make them cry. That's what they did. They made them cry. So their children must stay without school books. Their children must not be able to go to the health center. They must not pay the little loans they have in the credit union. They must not be able to pay their house rent because 90% of them are Labour Party supporters. So you make them cry. So you send all of them home and you replace them with your people. And then you say that the NICE program was not sustainable. But you've kept the home care part of it, a program that you condemned. You promised to make NICE nicer. You promised to make NICE nicer. But what you did is you made these people cry. The people you sent home on the home care givers program, you made them cry. That's what you planned to do. That's what you said you would do, Madam Speaker. And you know, Madam Speaker, the hurtful thing is some of the people that they made cry, they sent for NICE. These people were not even Labour Party supporters. They were not. You understand? But they sent them home. And no one had the courtesy to call the parliamentary rep, just like the Castries City Council. In fact, Castries City Council has done one thing, and I want to thank them for that, for Castries East. One thing, they put back the internet in my park in Toulouse. I want to thank them for that. The only thing they did for me. You understand? Only one thing. You understand? Because, Madam Speaker, when I come here, I want to speak the truth. And I want what I say to be able to be documented and used for or against me if you can. So, Madam Speaker, but with a NICE program, this is so hurtful, Madam Speaker. You send these people home, and you replace them. And Madam Speaker, let me tell you something. Do you know the people on the NICE program, the home care program, you know they were trained? They got a series of training. I understand. Now, Don't hold me to that. I understand that the people that they replace them with will not properly train. I understand they were getting some body injection. I understand, Madam Speaker, that these people, they were so untrained that they made errors, mistakes, trying to cut people nails and they cut their tooth. You understand? Because they weren't trained. They weren't trained, Madam Speaker. They weren't trained. They weren't trained, Madam Speaker. They weren't trained. But you know, but it's to make them cry. And I mean, common courtesy will tell you, if you are sending 26 people at home, I mean, let's be a little, I mean, all of us have sent solutions, not because you UWP and I'm labor. You must treat me as if I'm an outcast, and you must make me cry. At least, do not do the supporters that. Do me. You're the customer doing me. Not the supporters. Not the supporters, Madam Speaker. You're not the supporters. But, Madam Speaker, the nice workers will never forget.
Honourable Member, you have 15 more minutes within which to complete your presentation.
Yes, Madam Speaker. I'll finish, Madam Speaker.
I'm just counting down the time.
I'm a man to my word. I tried an hour. The night workers, Madam Speaker, that you sent home will never forget that. They will never forget. Because for every one person that you fire, you've affected 3 people. And these 3 people, even they're 15 years now, they'll be 18 when the time comes. Madam Speaker, page 66, just a glance. I want to know, by the way, there's a credit union employment initiative for $1 million on the Prime Minister's estimates. Remove. No longer, no, remove, Madam Speaker. On page 66, Madam Speaker, there's nothing for the press secretary. I don't know who's paying us. Page 123, Madam Speaker, the Ministry of National Security. Madam Speaker, you know, when I heard this government talk about security, and now the Labour Party did nothing about security, and they take the DPP's office and say, we have a new DPP. We'll go to them the forensic lab. Madam Speaker, do you know that the Minister of Finance once said that the forensic lab is useless? He said we should have a regional forensic lab. That's what he said. That's what Mr. Finance. And now, right now, the forensic lab is the best thing that ever happened to them. Is the best that ever happened to them, the forensic lab, Madam Speaker. That's the best that happened to them. But, Madam Speaker, I am glad, but they know the story with the forensic lab. They know it very well. But you know, they know the entire story because they boast that they have all the information, Madam Speaker. Tell the people the story on the forensic lab. They know the entire story, Madam Speaker. But, Madam Speaker, do you know that there have been no major increase in the number of police officers in this country? There are 1,854 police officers in 2017-2016. In 2018 going forward, there are the same amount of police officers, Madam Speaker. You understand? So, do not pretend. Now, I understand that we have fiscal issues, but don't pretend as if this government did nothing. Don't pretend, Madam Speaker. And in terms of capital expenditure, the rate of increase of capital expenditure for the National Security Ministry is the same rate in proportion with when we're in government and when they are there. So I understand you have fiscal difficulties, but don't blame everything on the government. You understand? Madam Speaker, infrastructure. Madam Speaker, infrastructure. The Minister for Infrastructure has not followed his colleagues. He's maintained all the programs that he inherited, Madam Speaker. The Tamaso Bridge, the Canaries Bridge, he's continued them, Madam Speaker. But I noticed that there is, in the budget for the Ministry of Infrastructure, there is $400,000 more for desilting. And desilting is a thing that, you know, desilting have a whole story. See desilting? That have a whole story. That's a thing that, you know what I mean? You see desilting? That word they call desilting. Desilting, that word. Community infrastructure. Community infrastructure, Madam Speaker. They've replaced community infrastructure by roads in towns and villages. I have no problem with that, Madam Speaker. But, Madam Speaker, there is nothing for the Grocery Highway. $3.9 million for the Grocery Highway. That's what's there. But, Madam Speaker, the Grocery Highway is another story. which we'll talk about at another time, Madam Speaker. Secondary roads, $5 million. That is new expenditure. It's needed because the roads are bad. I have no problem with that. I just hope you spread it in the coast. No problem with that. $5 million, territory roads. I hope you can spread it equally among us, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I noticed that curative agricultural roads have disappeared. Madam Speaker, housing, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the CDB, there's in page 491, there's an item for housing. But Madam Speaker, the CDB have said that to give the policy-based loans, there must be a procurement policy. Minister of Finance, you have to implement a procurement policy. The CDB will not give you money unless you have a procurement policy. So I hope you know that if you have resistance towards the procurement policy, you will not get that policy-based loan from the CDB. Proud, Madam Speaker. They attack Proud. They say everything about Proud. Now they are doing the same Proud, Madam Speaker. I want to ask them, Madam Speaker, don't let the people in Rockall cry. Don't let them cry. There's a Proud. We started a Proud for the people in Rockall. Continue it. Don't let them cry in Rockall. Please, don't let them cry. Try to make me cry, although you won't succeed. But don't make them cry. Don't let the people in Rockall cry. And don't let the people, so the Proud program, I want you to implement it in Rockall. And I want you to continue the Proud program in Bagatelle, to start a Proud program in Bagatelle, where I promise, and the work started in getting the people in Bagatelle to own the lands on which they have the houses, Madam Speaker. There's also a consultancy of $103,000 in the Ministry of Housing. I don't know why it's there. External affairs, Madam Speaker. You know, Madam Speaker. You know, Madam Speaker. All these issues that government had with external affairs, they call them, what do you call them, cocktail diplomats?
Yes.
Cocktail diplomats, wasting money, jobs for the boys. Jobs for the boys, Madam Speaker. You know, Madam Speaker, the allowances for external affairs has increased. You know they're paying more money in London. They're paying $92,000 more in London, Madam Speaker, in foreign affairs. And do you know, Madam Speaker, that the personal emoluments have increased from $8.9 million to $9.3 million in external affairs, even though civil aviation and international trade are no longer there. Madam Speaker, subsidies, Madam Speaker, subsidies, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, they've removed the $4 million subsidies for sugar, flour, and rice. The Prime Minister gave an explanation, time will tell. You know, Madam Speaker, impacts. You know the government contributes to impacts. Tell the constable on the road that this government contributes to impacts. They'll tell you no, because they made the people believe that impacts were the thing of labor. But this government, they continue to make the $264,000 contribution to impacts. Nobody, I don't think the normal policeman knows that. He thinks that impact is something recreated. But impact is there all the time, and this government is continuing the contribution to impact, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Tourism Authority, Madam Speaker, in the transfer payments, you continue paying impact $24,000. What are you talking about? You are paying impacts $24,000 in transfers.
For the regional impacts.
I'm not saying no, but I'm saying you get the impression that impact is something we recreated.
But you did create impact.
Huh? That's what you pretending. Flashing mirrors again.
Impact report you created.
You see? Madam Speaker, SLASPA, Madam Speaker, there's an increase for SLASPA. I want to know why. The Tourism Authority, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I really want to have some time to discuss that, but I promise you I'll finish at 20 past 4, so we're not going to deal with the Tourism Authority, because the time will come. Because that bluff, that flashing mirror of the Tourism Authority, and that flashing mirror they use, Madam Speaker, I will dismantle that when the time comes. Hospitals, Madam Speaker. St. Jude's Hospital. Same allocation of $10 million for St. Jude's. No, not sorry. The St. Jude's Hospital, Madam Speaker, that is another story. But, Madam Speaker, as I made the point before, that out of the expenses for St. Jude's Hospital, a little less than 50% of these expenses were initiated when they were in government. The Festival Commission, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Festival Commission, I want to know, the government has removed the money from Carnival, from Community Carnival, from Calypso Management, and they have put it in a Festival Commission. I hope it's not to make the party supporters cry again. I hope it's not to make Calypsonians only sing pro-government songs. I hope it's not for that. I hope it's not removing the independence of Calypsonians. I hope it's not that. I hope it's not that. And I have reason to do that, because to say that. Because if you can remove money from a national trust, you can do anything. If you can do the national trust what you did them, you can do anything. Yes, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, open.
Honourable Member, 5 more minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to deal with I want to tell the Cali City Council to continue to leave the high five for the people in Stouge, and not because I asked them whether there's any plan that they must make the people in Stouge cry. But, Madam Speaker, I maintain, Madam Speaker, that when you are spending that kind of money, you need to have a plan. You know, Madam Speaker, there are something called the city police, and it looks good. You have people walking the streets and you call them police. But, Madam Speaker, did anybody make an analysis to see how you could merge, what synergies you could gain if you implemented that in conjunction with the police force? Couldn't there be savings? I'm just asking. Where is the study? Where is the work that says that's the best thing to do? I'm not saying it's not a good thing, but where is the work that says that, Madam Speaker? So, Madam Speaker, this budget, Madam Speaker, is risky and dangerous. The framers of the budget are dealing with straight Keynesian economics, tax and spend. It's dangerous, Madam Speaker. That has not worked. It didn't work in Greece, it didn't work in Barbados, it will not work in St. Lucia. History has shown, Madam Speaker, that running these deficits, consistent deficits, do not work. Madam Speaker, I want the people of St. Lucia to know that the recurrent deficit will increase by 109%. The recurrent deficit is projected to move from 3.4% to 7.6%. A primary deficit of 50.7 million is anticipated this year, a reversal from a primary surplus of 102.8 million recorded in 26. The overall deficit of the government will increase this year by $158 million, moving from 1.4% of GDP to 4.7% of GDP this year. Madam Speaker, all caution has been thrown to the wind. The policies of consolidation that this government inherited, they failed to continue it, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the old-fashioned Keynesian economics does not work in small, open economies. Madam Speaker, when the government runs a deficit budget, national government savings decrease. Public debt increases in line with the deficit. Higher debt and reduced savings, Madam Speaker, results in higher interest rates and a higher cost of debt, continuing a vicious circle, Mr. Speaker. And that inevitably leads to structural reform, and that comes with the IMF, Madam Speaker. Large deficits, Madam Speaker, result in unstable fiscal policy, as the government is forced to juggle to reprioritize its commitments, Madam Speaker. What we need is a strategy of programmed fiscal consolidation, reducing public deficits and prosperity led by the private sector, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the UWP government inherited an improvement in fiscal performance. The UWP government, Madam Speaker, they were so concerned in making people cry, in vindictiveness, in victimization, Madam Speaker, that they are allowing that to slip by the policies. Madam Speaker, fiscal and economic management is about fiscal consolidation. It's about debt reduction. It's about gender-responsive budgeting. It's about efficiency in government spending. It's about fiscal discipline. It's about sound planning. It's about constructive alliances with the private sector and sound, sustainable investments, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this government had the opportunity, the people of St. Lucia getting the opportunity to continue on that path. But because of their vindictive nature, because of the desire to make people of the Labour Party suffer, because of the desire to make us cry, because of their desire, Mr. Speaker, they have allowed that by stopping projects, by taking the police and going to businessmen's homes to search for what belongs to the government. By doing these things, Mr. Speaker, this government is plunging this country into a fiscal mess that will inevitably lead to the introduction of a structural adjustment by the IMF. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.